I messed up badly on my bachelor party trip, and now my fiancé has moved on. I regret everything and just want a chance to win her back, but I don't know if it's even possible. Part 1. My, Emily F. 24. Fiancé Walt, M. 23, went missing. I am so scared and I don't know what to do. No one has heard from him in 2 weeks now. He went on vacation with his best friend to Thailand, decided to go out on his own one day, and hasn't been heard from since. I keep hoping he is going to turn up. I went there with his parents and brother to help look for him. I was sick basically the whole week I was there with them looking, and I had to come back. We checked all the hospitals, all the jails. His parents are still there trying to track him down. I just figured out why I felt so sick. I thought it was stress. It's not. I'm now 12 or so weeks pregnant. I just went to the OB today and had everything confirmed. I'm so scared. I don't know how I'm going to do this on my own if he doesn't come back. My parents are nearing 70 at this point. My brother is 40 and lives halfway across the country. I need my fiancé. I need Walt. I'm not looking for any advice. I just needed to vent. I think the hardest part is just not knowing what happened to him. Part 2. 5 years ago I, Walt M. 28, made a choice that royally fucked up my life. I had a lot going for me. At the time I was the new guy at my firm. I was an architect, mostly subdivisions, and really enjoying it. I had a long-term girlfriend of 3 years, Emily F. 29, that I had recently become engaged to. I really thought nothing could derail me. After Emily said yes, we began planning the wedding. We were not up for the big wedding thing. We agreed we would have an elopement to a coastal city. San Diego became the plan. Parents, siblings were welcome to come if they wanted, but basically we were just booking a honeymoon and getting married while we were there. Since this whole trip was going to be, relatively speaking, inexpensive, we decided to splurge on pre-wedding activities. Now, neither of us wanted traditional bachelorette parties. We agreed we would scratch off bucket list items. Emily wanted to swim with sharks, and booked herself one of those cage diving excursions. She's not scuba diver or anything, just always been fascinated by sharks. Her and her best friend Maggie went to Florida for a long weekend and did just that. Mine was quite a bit more. I had always wanted to visit Thailand. It was one of those dumb things I got fascinated with as a 10-year-old and swore I was going to go. Emily actually encouraged me, pointing out that I literally brought up Thailand on our first date. We were 6 months into our engagement when the time came for me and my best friend, Jorge, to leave on the trip. For the first 3 days everything was great. We were enjoying beaches, visiting temples, and drinking a lot. On the third night though, Jorge got absolutely smashed drunk. I was a little pissed about this and tried to slow him down. The next day we were supposed to go on a jungle excursion. Being young dumb guys, we didn't really book these in advance, and had been just adding things to do as we went. On our first day here I saw a few places offering jungle excursions and decided I was doing that and told Jorge I wanted to do that on Thursday of our trip. The next morning Jorge had a world-class hangover, and refused to get up at all, and said we can book an excursion tomorrow. My thought was, fuck that. I'm going today. I had seen ads for a few places that did these. I went out to get some breakfast and spotted a guy on the side of the road offering the jungle excursion cheap. He had a Jeep and when he noticed me looking at his sign, moved in with a hard sell. Honestly, it did look a little shady, but the guy spoke English so well it gave me a false sense of security. I decided to go with this guy. I get in and for a while it's actually pretty fun. He pulls off the main road on these off-road paths. I have no idea where we are going. We end up deep down these roads. I'm enjoying it for the most part though. Then everything went sideways. We stopped in this small clearing, and I was checking some things out, when out of nowhere a larger group of shady individuals pulls up from a different path. I was freaking out. My guide and these others were speaking the Khmer language I was completely unfamiliar with. I'm not going to go into what the next 4.5 years were like, but hell is an easy comparison. They needed a manual labor mule. I was the dumbass that walked into the trap. It was every day, loading and unloading, digging, fixing things. I was kept in the middle of nowhere, chained to my cot every night. I knew I couldn't survive running aimlessly into the jungle. Sticking to the paths would have gotten me caught. The camp would move around every so often. I was always blindfolded when we moved. My guide would be by occasionally. He would talk to me, mostly just to make sure I was still in line, but I could get little bits of information out of him. I also started to pick up some of the language, enough anyway. They were making meth. I was their slave, and I could do nothing. I had to wait it out. During this time, after no one came for me, I realized they all thought I was dead. I had gone missing. Jorge had no idea where I was. I had called back home the morning I was abducted and left messages, but they only knew I was going on a jungle excursion. My parents, my fiancé, I miss them so much. There were plenty of days I was hoping one of these guys would just take me out already, especially after the first year when I became more tolerant of the food and water. Finally, after 55 months in captivity, a miracle happened. The camp got raided. I was still chained to the cot and in my rags that I wore for clothes at this point. The authorities arrested me as well, but quickly realized what my situation was. A search of a database found my missing persons report from Thailand. I had nothing to my name, they took my passport, ID long ago, and was in a country I wasn't supposed to be in. I contacted the embassy. They helped me contact home. I attempted to contact my fiancé, but a guy named Mitch answered and he did not know an Emily, so I figured she must have changed her number at some point. I called my mother. She was absolutely frantic. She grabbed my father and I told her my entire tale. I kept asking about Emily and my mother kept deflecting. She wanted to get started immediately getting me home, and said we would talk about everything when I got back to the US. It took a little while to make this happen. During that time they sent me money and I was able to get a hotel. My parents were very adamant I not try to contact Emily during this time and to wait until we got back. I obviously started to assume she had moved on and was with someone else. Which was heartbreaking. I had held out hope during my captivity that she would not, but with the way my parents were acting I assumed that was the case. Even so, I wanted to contact her immediately, before anything else. I didn't want to talk about my time there. I didn't want to talk about what they did trying to find me, or know anything about anyone else. I just wanted my fiancé. My parents sat me down and handed me a save the date card. It was Emily and some tall handsome guy I'd never seen before. She was engaged. I broke down. It wasn't unexpected, but the feelings were still there. I asked my parents if they had kept in touch with her beyond just being wedding guest worthy. They said yes, they've actually been a huge part of each other's lives these last few years. I was a little shocked. I know they liked Emily, but with me gone I had somewhat expected them to drift apart, not get closer. I decided to ask, "So how close are you guys now?" My mother responded, "Very. Her father passed a year ago and your dad has agreed to walk her down the aisle." That hurt, it shouldn't, but it did. "Why you?" was all I could say. My mom got emotional, started going on about how they all thought I was gone, that they looked so hard and so long. They had a whole memorial service for me. I snapped a little, "I don't care about that right now, what are you not telling me?" My mother took that tablet and flipped a few photos. She then handed it back to me. There was a whole group photo. My parents, Emily, her fiancé, her mom, my sister, my brother, Emily's brother, Jorge, other friends and kids. But at the center of the table was a boy sitting behind a birthday cake. The decorations read "Happy 4th birthday." He was smiling big. I just looked at my parents. My mother looked at me and said, "That's your son, Paul Walter Rhine." Part 3. In the 2 weeks since I got back home, it simultaneously feels like so much has happened, and that virtually nothing has happened. I have been largely brought up to speed on all that has happened on this side of the world. When Jorge finally got up out of bed that day years ago, he tried to call me. After having no success, they smashed my phone. He decided to just go about his day, assuming I was enjoying my excursion. It wasn't until it was well past dark that he started to get concerned. He called back home to see if anyone else had heard from me. The next morning my family and fiancé were blowing up his phone wondering if I had come back yet. That's when he began venturing out to all the legit excursion places. They all reported that they had not seen me. He began to panic and alerted everyone back home. He went to the authorities at this point. My parents, brother and fiancé all made the trip to join him. They spent a month canvassing the area before they had to go back. My parents made another trip to Thailand to try and find me, but again turned up nothing. Over the next year and a half they were a constant reminder to the Thai officials of my disappearance. Meanwhile, my fiancée Emily came to the realization she was pregnant. On the day I left for Thailand, she was unknowingly around 10 weeks. I can only imagine how hard it was on her. "I'm missing. She's pregnant with my child. I wish I had never gone." My parents told me Emily really leaned on them, and they were happy to help. Over the years they've just grown closer and closer. Her parents were there, and supportive, but they are much older than mine and not in as good of health. My mom ended up taking Emily to a lot of her OB appointments. She was there in the delivery room along with Emily's mom. It was apparently very stressful as Paul was born at just 34 weeks. Luckily, he showed no signs of health problems. My parents tell me they needed this. The anguish of not knowing what happened to me was very hard, and the birth of their grandson provided a much-needed respite from the grief. They keep telling me how sorry they are, but they didn't do anything wrong. I guess it's just guilt now that they know I was out there, and they failed to find me. Jorge has been by to see me. He has apologized far too many times. He's gotten married since the trip, and has 2 kids now. He seems nervous around me, and I guess that's fair. I do hold some resentment towards him. It's not his fault, but the feeling is there anyway. My brother and sister have marched on with life. My brother has kids now, and my sister is married. I missed all of this. I could probably get over all of that, but losing my fiancé and missing out on 4 years with my son, it's been too much. My parents have set me up with a therapist. I went to the first session but have no idea what to talk about. I was treated like a work mule for 4.5 years, beaten at times, starved at times. Plenty of PTSD. My whole family thought I was dead, so much so they had a memorial service for me 3 years to the day of my disappearance. I was supposed to marry the love of my life, and she is now engaged to someone else. Then to top it all off, I have a 4-year-old son, who has been raised by my replacement since he was 18 months old. Paul only knows this guy as Dad. He calls him Dad, and now here I am, back from the dead to fuck up everyone else's perfect little lives. I'm ranting though, it's just too much to unpack. I still haven't directly spoken to Emily. My father went to her house the day after my return. He sat her and her fiancé, Kevin M34 down, told them I had been found. She began to tear up. She thought he was saying my body had been recovered. When he corrected her, she had a complete breakdown. Her fiancé comforted her. My dad said she was just silent afterwards. I tried texting her. I got no response for a whole day, then just a "I'm so sorry, I just can't right now." I haven't asked anyone about her fiancé, other than I know she's been engaged for about 2 months, and the wedding is supposed to be in 6 months from now. No one has volunteered any information at this point. We were supposed to all meet at the park this past weekend. My resurgence has thrown the harmony out of whack and I can tell everyone is a little off. My mother typically watches Paul while Emily and Kevin are at work. A lot of time it's at her house, but since I showed up it's been exclusively over at Emily's. I hear they are prepping him to meet me. He is aware I'm his father. My pictures are all over at my parents' house. Emily has apparently always had a picture of me up in Paul's room. I'm a shell of the guy in the picture, but I guess at least I kinda look like that still. He won't be totally blindsided. My parents and I arrived at the park first. When we saw their car pull up, only Kevin and Paul got out. Emily was not with them. Paul ran up to my dad first and gave him a big hug. He saw me and kind of retreated to my mom, then over to Kevin. I could tell he was nervous. I mean shit, so was I, and I'm not 4 years old. The other adults tried to say something to get us to talk or embrace or something. I told them to let it go, let him go play. He perked up and ran off to the playground. Kevin came up and stuck his hand out. We shook, and he said, "Sorry, Emily, couldn't today." We were about out the door and she broke down, told me she wasn't ready. I just said, "I understand." I went over to the playground to try and bond in some way. Turns out Paul is big into superheroes. He pretended to be Spider-Man and I had to be Rhino. I chased him all over the playground and let him web me up. He laughed and smiled. When the food was ready I was happy to see he liked his hot dogs the same as me. Ketchup on one side, mustard on the other, relish on top. I thought maybe this won't be so hard. Then he called Kevin Dad. I shouldn't have been surprised by this. He's been in this kid's life for 2.5 years. He is marrying his mom. They all live in the same house. That all said, it was like a knife in the heart. I began to actually tear up. I excused myself for a moment and said I was going over to the Gross Park bathroom. When I came out after a minute Kevin was waiting. I could see my parents across the way watching Paul. I felt instantly awkward. The last thing I wanted right now was a heart-to-heart with Kevin. He was taller than me, more built than me, and had gotten to have the life I was supposed to have. He just said, "Can we talk?" I said, "Yeah, man, what's on your mind?" Kevin began, "Look, I'm sorry for what happened to you. It's a bad deal all around. I just wanted to talk because I'm worried about Emily and Paul. Emily more than him. She hasn't been herself, which I can appreciate to some degree. It took a long time for her to get over you. I'm the first person she dated after your incident. She cried the first time we kissed because it was different. I want you to have a relationship with your son. He's little, he's resilient. I had 2 dads growing up. I know he will be fine. I don't know how fine her or you will be if this goes too fast, and from a selfish standpoint I don't want anything disrupting our life or our engagement. I love her, and want what's best. I'd like you two to take it slow and process everything before you meet. I made an appointment for her to see a counselor. I'd appreciate it if you could respect that and not push her or reach out to her. Let her figure things out on her own first. I was pissed listening to him, pretentious ass, but fuck, he had some points. I don't want to rip open all these old wounds. I ended up just saying, yeah, man, I can do that. And walked off to join my parents and Paul. Kevin went into the gross bathroom. When he came back over, he said him and Paul were going to head out. Paul gave everyone hugs, including me. I was surprised, but pleasantly. Then he called me Rhino and ran off to Kevin. As they left, I heard him say, "Dad, can we get a cookie cake on the way home?" Ugh, he's Dad. I'm Rhino, and this just fucking sucks. Part 4, we finally met. We started by texting a bit, but it felt so impersonal the conversation stayed at a surface level. The deepest we really got was talking about Paul and me briefly divulging what captivity was like. Over the 3 weeks between our first text exchange and our meetup, we only texted maybe 5 times, and each time it started to get into heavy subjects, one of us would end the conversation. During that time though, I did spend more time with Paul. My mother began watching him at her house again, and that gave us time to bond. I even had some one-on-one time with him when we went to get ice cream together one day. It's amazing how resilient kids are. He just goes with the flow of everything. He still calls me Rhino, but maybe I'll get the dad title soon. One day this past week, when Kevin came by to pick up Paul, he asked to talk again. This time he had a job offer for me, which had me getting pissed. Then he elaborated that it wasn't really an offer but more of a lead. His brother owns a construction company and is looking for an estimator. Kevin told his brother I was once an architect, and his brother said he'd give me an interview if I was interested. He left his brother's card with me. I really want to hate Kevin, but he does actually seem to be a genuinely nice person, which also pisses me off. His self-deprecating sense of humor grows on you fast, and this is just in 5 to 10 minute interactions with him. But at the same time, fuck that guy. I talked to Emily via text this past Friday. We agreed to meet the next day for lunch. I suggested this Italian place that had been our place, but she got a little upset about this and I thought she was going to cancel. Instead, we pivoted to Applebee's. Seeing her in person I can't even describe. She was just as beautiful as ever. The hello hug caused a shiver through my spine. I didn't want to let go, and may have lingered for just a second, but also didn't want to make it weird. We exchanged pleasantries and small talk through the ordering, and at that point the conversation took the first serious turn since my return, and it stayed that way for the next hour as we talked. She told me how hard it was to deal with my death. She was pregnant and grieving, and a lot of days didn't want to carry on. It hurt so bad to listen to what she was going through. She told me she felt so alone any time she was in our apartment that she spent most nights staying at her parents' or mine. She kept hoping that every time the phone rang it would be someone with news about me, and then began to hope it wasn't, because as time went on it became more likely that it would be a call that they found my body. She told me about how great my parents, and to a lesser degree my siblings, had been to her. My sister-in-law and her even had slightly overlapping pregnancies, so it was fun to have someone to talk to about it. It was after Paul's first birthday that my parents, of all people, talked to her about getting back out there. She admitted she was really only spending time with her parents, or my Sil, and by extension my brother. She said she even fell off hanging out with her best friend. Emily told me it was fear. She never wanted to be away from Paul. If I could disappear in an instant, then that means anyone could. She wouldn't be able to live without him. After this intervention, she realized she was living like a widow and not a 25-year-old woman. She began hanging out with her friends again, letting others watch Paul occasionally so she could go out. It was 2 months into her attempts at living life that she ran into Kevin. They were in a Starbucks. She was fumbling trying to get her phone out while holding Paul. When suddenly this tall handsome fucker, my words, comes up and scans his phone, buying her coffee and muffin. They strike up a conversation while waiting. When her order gets called, he grabs it and hands it to her along with a business card with his cell number on it. Kevin owns a screen printing shop. Tells her, "No pressure, but I'd like to get to know you better." Then they part ways. She called him the next day. 4 months later she introduced Paul to him. A year later they moved in with him, and a few months ago they got engaged. This is where I said my piece. I told her I still loved her, that it's impossibly hard to see her with someone else. The idea of getting back to her was one of the few things that kept me going when I was locked away. She began to cry, and I reached out and took her hand. I asked if she was sure, or if there was any way we could try again. In hindsight I feel like this was a dick move, but at the time I needed to know. She shook her head, looked up at me and said, "I love you, I never stopped, but I love Kevin too, and I'm marrying him. It's not fair, I know it's not fair, you didn't do anything wrong, but I had to move on. I spent years thinking you had died. When you came back I was so happy, but also so guilty. I cut her off there. You have nothing to feel guilty about, I fucked up and cost myself everything. I always knew you'd likely moved on. And I don't fault you for that. I was gone, there was no reason for you to believe I was coming back. But I did dream that I'd find my way back and you'd be there when I returned. I realized that was unrealistic. I'm sorry for putting you in this position now. She said. It's okay, I knew this was coming eventually. We just kind of stopped talking at that point. Sat there just drinking our drinks. After a few minutes that seemed like eternity, she said, how do you want to move forward when it comes to Paul? I told her. I love him already and want to be in his life. She replied, I'm so happy for that, I always told him about you, I didn't want him to think he was abandoned. I said, he is the one bright spot in this whole situation. From there she told me that Kevin had planned to adopt him once they were married but wouldn't now that I have returned. I am listed on the birth certificate as the father, although I think I'll meet with a lawyer just to make sure everything is in place from a legal standpoint. I do appreciate she named him after my father and also gave him our last name. We made some plans to meet together later in the week with Paul. Let him have fun with all of his parents at the same time. She also encouraged me to do more one-on-one with him. At the end we hugged one more time and parted ways. When I got back to my parents' house and in my room, I broke down. The finality of it all was just too much. After I recovered I decided I was not going to wallow in my grief anymore. I needed to swallow some pride, and get on track to do something with myself. The next day I called Kevin's brother and did an interview that day. He hired me. This is the first step towards moving on. Part 5. Holy shit, you are not gonna believe what I'm about to tell you. These last 6 months have been nothing short of absolutely fucking crazy, but in a good way. After my first initial face-to-face with Emily, I decided I needed to move on with my life, and I ended up getting hired to be an estimator for Kevin's brother Kyle's M36 construction company. It was going well, and at about the 2-month mark Kyle, knowing I was an architect, started asking me to design some of his custom builds and would compare them to the usual architect he was using. He was liking mine better, and while I still work as an estimator, I am now solely designing the custom homes for Kyle, and he gave me a huge raise. This allowed me to get my own apartment, and I'm thankful to say I am no longer living in my parents' house. Emily and Kevin's wedding plans progressed with only one major change. My father was no longer walking her down the aisle, as everyone felt it was inappropriate given my return. Her much older brother was going to take that role. Emily was an oops baby, so her brother is 16 years older than her. After our initial lunch, I saw Emily a lot more often. We were making it a point to do something all together with Paul at least once a week. Kevin was there as well, but they kept the couple behavior to a minimum. It was fun. I especially enjoyed getting to talk to Emily and just be around her. After a month of this back-to-school season hit. I guess in the screen printing industry this is the busy season. Which I guess makes sense with fall sports, staff shirts, clubs, Greek life. Kevin has contracts with all the school districts and is used heavily by the local colleges in the area. He became swamped at this time. Which led to Emily, Paul, and I spending a lot more time just the three of us. Over the months of this we became a lot closer. Hello side hugs became lingering full front hugs. Emily and I would talk about all sorts of things. It kind of reminded me of when we were first dating. After a couple of months Kevin began joining us all again. This didn't dissuade Emily and I from rebuilding our friendship. Then the most amazing thing happened. Paul started calling me Dad. I literally teared up like the first 10 times he did this. Life went on for the next couple of months. It was a week before the wedding. I was not going to attend, my parents were as guests only. That weekend they decided to have semi-combined bachelor parties. Each was going out to dinner with friends, then friends activity, her karaoke him top golf, then they'd all meet up at a bar or club around 11 p.m. I wasn't involved in any of this and had no idea which place they were going to end at. I decided I was going out that night instead of just sitting in my apartment being a dud. It was a hard night for me as it was another reminder that I had lost her to someone else. No matter how good of a dude he was, I still hated it. It was around 10:30 that night. I had a good buzz, and was planning on getting an Uber home when Emily and her bachelorette crew walked in. I kind of hid in the crowd at first, not wanting to butt into her night, but she spotted me. Emily came over and we began to talk. It was a little bit flirty. A song she loved came on and she began to dance, then dance on me. I joined in and we were laughing and having fun. As the song ended she kind of stumbled into me, I caught her and we looked at each other. Our lips moved in close and we almost kissed when she pulled back. We laughed it off and moved to the bar to get a drink. It was probably a good thing we didn't kiss because about 2 minutes later Kevin came walking up. He was trying to be his usual self but seemed a little off. They kissed, and I began to feel like the third wheel, so I went ahead and ordered that Uber and headed home. The next day I'm a little hungover and slept in pretty heavy on my lazy Sunday. It was midday and I heard someone try to open my door. It was locked and they began knocking heavily. I ran over and opened the door. It was Emily. She lunged into my arms and kissed me. It was the sweetest feeling I have ever felt. Confusing, but sweet. I asked her what was going on. She said, "Kevin came to me this morning and started asking some hard questions. I don't want to go into it, I promise I'll tell you everything one day, but I'm in no place to do so now. We decided to end things. I admitted my feelings were still strong for you. He said he understood, that it hurt but that he knew. He said we both deserve to be happy, and he is going to step away. I called your parents. They are good keeping Paul a bit longer. I love you and want to be with you, and I'm suspecting you feel the same way." I told her that was all I ever wanted. It's been a whirlwind. She had 2 bags packed for her and Paul and they moved in with me that same day. The next day my father went to visit Kevin. He told me Kevin looked a little hungover and had taken the day off. They had a talk and my dad tried to be as empathetic as he could. He just wanted to check on him as Kevin had been a large part of their lives over the past few years. He asked Kevin what he was going to do. He said beyond trying to get some deposits back he had no idea. My father offered to refund him his money and take over the reservations. He didn't ask why. My father thinks he knew. While this was going on I had to go into work and face Kyle. He called me into the office upon my arrival. Kyle had me sit and began, "Just let me say my business. I'm angry. My brother tells me to let it go and I will. I want to take that anger out on you but I'm not going to. My brother and I learned the hard lesson back in high school when it comes to revenge and swore we'd always be the bigger men going forward. But that's not a tale for now. I think it's best we part ways. My family needs time to heal. I won't leave you high and dry though. You get 1 week paid off here. In that time I want you to speak to an acquaintance of mine, Lee. Lee runs a construction company as well, and he says he will take you on at your current salary. It's commercial instead of residential but you'll do fine." I stood up and started to thank him but he cut me off. "This isn't for you, it's for Kev. Now go get your things and get up out of here." I contacted Lee the same day. He told me I could start in 2 weeks. Once my father came back and said he now had control of the wedding accommodations, Emily and I just looked at each other and knew we each wanted this. It wasn't the wedding we always wanted. We planned on getting married on a beach. It was Kevin that wanted the traditional wedding. In the end he was right though. We had an amazing time. Jorge was my best man. She looked stunning in her dress. Getting me a tux rental on short notice was probably the biggest headache but that worked out too. Neither of us had huge friend or family groups but it was nice to enjoy celebrating with those that had supported us through all these dark times. It's been a month now since our wedding. I still can't believe it. Paul had a little trouble adjusting. He does miss Kevin, but he has seemed happier the last week. To be where I once was and be where I am now, I consider myself beyond lucky. Part 6. This is my first time ever posting. A friend of mine suggested this as a place to vent into the void. I, Kevin M. 35, was engaged to my amazing fiancé Emily, F. 30. We met at Starbucks almost 4 years ago now. I saw this mom struggling in the line, so I went up and just paid for her coffee and muffin. I really didn't have any expectations, but we started talking. I noticed she didn't have a ring on her finger, and decided I'd shoot my shot. I didn't want to be awkward so I just slipped her my business card with my cell on it and told her no pressure. Figured if she was married she could just toss the card. I was ecstatic when she called me the next day. Our relationship took off fast and I have to admit I was in love from the start. She had some trauma she had to deal with. I was the first relationship she had since her fiancé had gone missing nearly 2 years earlier. I was sympathetic. I knew what it was like. I buried my first true love. I had met a girl in college, Jocelyn. We were together for 5 years, engaged, when she was taken from me in a car accident. It took me 2 full years to move on, and I'm still not 100%. Emily wasn't my first date or relationship after losing Jocelyn, but she was the first that made me truly feel that spark. I met her son officially some months later. Paul was the sweetest boy. I bonded with him quickly. They moved in with me and I knew this is what I wanted out of life. She was still struggling with the loss of her fiancé. He had gone on a guy's trip to Thailand and never came back. He had just disappeared and was presumed dead. I really put in the work to help her overcome that grief. I handled it when she cried after our first kiss because it was so different. I took things slow while she came to terms with being intimate with someone new. Held her hand on the bad days, and celebrated the good. I knew what it was like, and I didn't want her to have to feel that way alone, like I made myself do. We had been engaged about 2 months when everything started to go south. Her ex-fiancé came back from the dead. He had been gone almost 5 years when his father, who Emily is still very close with and I had come to have a great relationship with, came to our home. He told us that Walt was back, he was alive and well. He told us a story about being held captive by Cambodian drug smugglers. It seemed like a legit story, fantastical sure, but there was some evidence to back it all. I knew to be supportive at first. There was guilt there, I could understand that. They all gave up on finding him. They even had a memorial service. I was actually pretty relieved when Emily didn't want to meet him right away. I remember when I first met Walt. There was something about him that just seemed off to me. I didn't say anything about that but did make the effort to let him know I wanted what was best for Emily and Paul. I even got the guy a job working for my brother Kyle. I didn't ever want to deny him his son, but I really needed him to understand that this was going to be hard on the people he left behind. We were plenty cordial with each other, but I will admit I played a bit overly nice, especially since I'm pretty sure he was cussing me under his breath. Once they met in person, it was the beginning of the end. My whole life I've been the bigger person, except for one time in high school. However, watching my fiancé have an emotional affair, EA, right in front of my face for the next 4 months was a bit much even for me. I know he was her son's father, but they got real close real quick. I would bring my feelings on this to her and she said it was just natural to them. That they had been together a long time before he was taken from her, but there was nothing romantic there anymore. She was with me now, not him. I bought the reassurances for far too long. At our bachelorette party I saw them almost kiss. I knew then that the EA wouldn't end, and would at some point become a physical affair if I didn't do something. I decided I had to take this head on the very next morning. We were 6 days from wedding bells. I asked her to talk to me. I asked, "Are you falling back in love with Walt?" She was taken aback for a moment. I never completely stopped. A part of me will always love him. We were separated through circumstances not by either of our own failings, but I've told you, there's nothing more between us. I pushed forward. I saw last night, I know you both thought I got there after, but I saw you dance, I saw you almost kiss. I just want to know if you want him more than you want me. She began to cry. No, I made a commitment to you, I will not go back on it. Sure, there are still feelings, can you blame me, but I love you as well. I told her. That isn't very reassuring, it sounds more like you are staying with me out of obligation than love. She got defensive. I do love you, I'm marrying you. I calmly asked, when you picture yourself walking down that aisle, who do you picture standing at the end? She was tearing up even heavier. I'm sorry, it's just hard now that he's back. I said. I know. I know what it is like to lose someone, I don't know how it feels to get them back. I'm sure it's hard, Emily interrupted. It's impossible. I just can't stop how I feel. I'm so sorry. I hugged her tight. If you want to be with him, you need to tell me, it gets so much harder after next week. I only want you to be happy, with no regrets. Now, do you want to be with him or me? She sobbed harder. I broke down too, it was one of the most painful moments of my life. We talked about fairness, she wavered in her choice for a moment, but came back to him. I could sense a weight had come off of her. She began to pack. I asked if I could still be in Paul's life, she said that would make her so happy. In a last moment, before she walked out forever, I told her I loved her and to take care of herself. I said, I know you don't want to hear this, but that place affected him far greater than he lets on, just promise me you will be careful. She just nodded, turned and left. I completely fell apart. I was left with the daunting task of telling my family, who all adored Emily, and getting back as much money as I could from the deposits. My brother was so angry, he wanted to fire him. I asked him not to, that this man would be providing for Paul now. He calmed, and said he would call Qley up and see if Qley could use him. The next day the eldest Paul, my almost father-in-law, came by. We had always had a good rapport. He came to make things right in a way, but I knew he also wanted to see his son marry Emily. When he offered to cover the return of all my deposits, I knew what he was doing. He was going to give them the chance to get married. I wanted to tell him to shove it, but I didn't. Always the bigger person, always letting it go. She came and got the rest of her stuff that week and let me know they were marrying. All of this happened 9 months ago. I've seen on their social media, they act like the happy couple. Everyone comments how happy they are for them. They say it was fate, that some divine force let him survive his imprisonment and come back to her. Then this week they announced that Emily was pregnant. Very few people have reached out to me, especially from our mutual circle. It's like they forgot I'm a person too. I guess I was just supposed to be okay with everything because I didn't make a scene. I feel betrayed, I'm broken. My first ever girlfriend cheated, my second died, and now I asked my fiancé to true love. This house I live in used to be filled with hope for the future, now it just has me wallowing in self-pity. I was only able to see Paul twice this whole time, both of those in the first month. Then the separating me from their lives began. That's been the hardest part. I miss my little buddy. This was a boy who called me dad, who sat on my lap every single night while I read him a story from his 5-minute Marvel books. He would fall asleep on me every day and I would go lay him in his bed. You don't just turn that off, I miss him so much. I just don't get it, how is this fair? I never cheated, I never raised my voice, I treated her with respect, care, love. And somehow I feel like I'm viewed as the bad guy in this story. How am I the one who deserves to be punished? I just wanted to raise Paul as my own, to love his mother and wake up to her every day, to give them the best life I could. Where is the justice in this? Where? I don't expect anyone to feel sorry for me, we all have our losses. I just needed to get this off my chest. Part 7. I last vented here when my now husband went missing. I'm now here to know if I am wrong for what I am doing. I love my husband Walt, but I can't keep doing this. 11 years ago when Walt and I were engaged, he went missing during a vacation trip to Thailand. He was missing for over 4 years. He was taken by a drug cartel that used him as a sort of slave labor. I found out right after he left for the trip I was pregnant with our son Paul. I became extremely close with his family during this time. I also met and fell in love with a man named Kevin, who I was engaged to. When Walt returned, I found myself torn between picking up where we left off and continuing with Kevin. I chose to give Walt and I a chance. We got married a week later and I was pregnant with Brian in less than a year. We had another child, a daughter named Brianna, 2 years later. One of the very last things Kevin said to me was, "That place affected him, Walt, far more than he lets on." I was mad at him for saying that to me, not in the moment but later on. I think he was right though. Walt and I really tried to make the best of everything, and it seemed like a movie romance the first year after our wedding. There were little moments where I got this feeling, but nothing I could really put my finger on. Over the last 5 years though, it's been a steady decline. In the early days it was night sweats and the occasional outburst over something seemingly small. I knew he had done therapy upon return for the first few months but stopped when he and I began reconnecting. I later got out of him all his therapist and he worked on was coping with the loss of me though. He has never processed the PTSD he endured from being held captive. He needs therapy. I have finally stopped lying to myself and accepted that he is a functional alcoholic. The thing is, the functional part of the term is becoming less and less true. He is quickly becoming someone I can't count on for anything. I am doing my best to keep the family together and afloat. I have made a schedule so that I can always be the one to get the kids places, because I don't trust him to drive. He tries to hide it. I have found alcohol stashed around the house. When he's good, he can be a great dad and loving husband. When he's not, he is a mess. The problem is he's only good when he has a couple drinks in him. It's a fine balance between the sober, irritable, short-tempered man, the had a few and functional man, and the had too many sloppy emotional wreck of a man. These are the main things. Our home life is far from what I pictured for us. Our oldest Paul has to play parent to the other two far too often because his father can't. I don't trust him to drive them anywhere. Our relationship is faltering. I feel like I'm doing this on my own. The bedroom is almost dead and I miss the connection. I am going to give him an ultimatum. I know they rarely work. I know he needs to do this for himself or it won't stick. I just feel like I have to give him one last chance. He will start an alcohol treatment program. He will go to therapy. He will go to couples counseling with me. I had a lawyer draw up divorce papers to show that I am serious. I won't file yet, he will have his chance. Part 8. After 9 years of ignoring requests for an update, U/Gwen Loves a Double made the request on the right day. I think it might have to do with me feeling a little bit more alive than usual. Don't get me wrong, I am a pretty happy guy in general. I love my family. I guess that should be part of the update. I met my wife, Qley, F39, about a year after my engagement to Emily ended. We've been married almost 7 years. We have a 6-year-old daughter and her 14-year-old son, Grant, from her first marriage. His dad and I get along well. My stepson calls me Kevin, probably always will, but we still have a really good relationship I wouldn't trade for anything. I am still running my screen printing business. It's actually been going really well. I had to move to a larger location. I was at the front desk when a disgruntled former employee came in. The rest of the staff were in the back, and Qley, who does not work with me, had stopped by to drop me off some lunch during her lunch break. I had to fire this guy for incompetence. He was supposed to be a graphic designer. In hindsight, I think his portfolio was someone else's. His ego was the worst part. He would make designs, the customer would ask for corrections, he would redesign it with the corrections, then still put his original design on the file. The first time was a mistake, the second time was a termination. I still can't believe what actually happened. He came in ranting about how I owed him money for the designs he did, that we did not use, ever. I tried to tell him peaceably that he needed to leave and he started cussing me. Qley, never one to back down from anything, told him to leave immediately or the police would be called. He said to her, "Shut it, bitch." I came around the counter at that point, and Qley moved to behind it. She was going for her phone, I waved her off, and got right in front of the guy. He spit at me. At this point, calling my wife a bitch, and spitting on me. I was done being the bigger person. 25 years of bottling it up was about to come out. I read through a lot of my old comments, and my high school story came up a lot. Well, here it is, here's why. My brother and I were raised in a boxing house. Our dad loved boxing, he put us in boxing classes at a young age and we kept in them all the way until high school. Even then my brother and I would spar a little here and there just to keep up with it. In high school, I was your stereotypical popular guy. I was smart, well-liked, and a 3-sport star, football, wrestling, baseball. I had a girlfriend I had since middle school and we were each other's first everything. It was early in my senior year, I was the starting QB on the team, and we were pretty good. Notably we had 2 guys on the team, Tyler and Zach, who were really good and were getting recruited by a few Division II schools. They were best friends and honestly 2 of the biggest jerks I had ever encountered. They played a lot of mean pranks, constantly talked trash to anyone about anything, and would try to get with the girlfriends of the guys on the team they didn't like, just all around D-bag behavior. They thought they were really tough too, I mean they were big and strong, but you could tell they were the kind of guys who had never been punched in the face before. I guess going into our senior year my girlfriend was starting to feel like she was wasting her youth, being in a long-term relationship with me. Which I could have moved past if she would have told me this or just broke up with me in the first place. She decided though to just go ahead with her exploration, without informing me of the change in our relationship status. It was the night after our first win and of course there was a house party. I typically didn't go to these in season, or very often. I also had to work this night, movie theater. I get a call from a friend of mine that my girlfriend was seen making out with Tyler, and that they just went into one of the bedrooms together. In a knee-jerk reaction, I tell my coworker I got to go and head that way. It was about 15 to 20 minutes to get to the party. The second I walked in I could see eyes go on me. Some people felt that overwhelming awkwardness you feel when you know something crazy is about to happen. Others laughed and made comments. Zach blocked me from going down the hall and we were getting in each other's faces when Tyler came out in just a pair of compression undershorts. They both stood over me trying to intimidate me, then threatened to beat my ass if I didn't leave. I turned around and headed for the front door. Tyler and Zach began calling me derogatory names and making a show. Other people laughed and made comments. Once out the front door I pulled my cell and called Kyle. He was there in 10 minutes. When we walked back in together Tyler and Zach were standing there in the middle of the room together. Tyler was redressed, and my girlfriend was standing with them. When they saw us she just turned and ran out the other side of the room. I will never forget the shocked face on Tyler and Zach. We didn't say anything, each of us just walked up and shoved them against the wall then stepped back, giving them the universal come on sign. I could see in their eyes they wanted nothing to do with us. They had always built themselves on being the big bad asses. Really they were just bullies, they picked on smaller guys and easy targets. Now they messed up, here were 2 guys that weren't as big and strong, but were fit and confident saying, "Let's find out." They had no choice, it was either fight or give up that bad boy reputation. There were a couple dozen people standing around watching. When they charged us, it wasn't a fight, it was a massacre. In addition to the usual bloody noses and black eyes, I had also broken Tyler's jaw. Kyle had cracked Zach's ribs. Each of them missed a few weeks of the season. When the colleges inquired as to why they were injured, it didn't take long for them to find out it was because of a fight. They stopped calling. We always wondered if law enforcement would get involved, they never did. Our father gave us one hell of speech though. I've carried that with me ever since. Those 2 were jerks, but I felt like I took their future away. They both came from broken homes and were just scared kids. They didn't have what me and Kyle had. They never ended up going to college, and here 25 years later I know they never left our hometown or really amounted to anything. I have been the bigger person every day since then. Not today. I shoved him back, and when he stepped forward again he got met with a quick jab and hard right hook. He flopped on the floor like a fish, trying to get up but too woozy to steady himself. Qley came over and he started to cry a little. We walked him out to his car and put him in the driver's seat. About 7 minutes later he started it and drove off. For whatever reason it got me thinking about my past with Emily. Of all the times I took the high road in my life, back when Walt came back was the time I regretted the most. But not anymore. It was good to get this out of my system. And it got me reflecting. As I look back at that whole situation, everything played out even better. Here at the end, I have an amazing wife, 2 great kids, and a thriving business. I don't know how they're doing, I hope well, but I think I ultimately won. Part 9. I had the craziest WTF moment of my life this morning. First off, because I'm sure once people look at my profile they'll start asking about Walt. We are still together, he did everything I asked and more. He has been sober for 7 years now. He has moved on to a good architectural firm and is focused mostly on commercial builds now. Which has been really good for our family. We moved to a new bigger house on the other side of the city. The only complaint I could possibly have is he has kind of become a workaholic. I appreciate all we have now, but sometimes wish he had more time with the kids and I. I don't say anything, it's leaps and bounds better than when he was drinking. I would say our relationship has gone from life support to about 80% good. This has to do mostly with our daughter, Brianna, and her new friend Addison. Brianna just turned 10 and is in competitive cheer. We sent her to a weekend camp at a college a few weeks ago. She roomed with 3 other girls, but she really hit it off with Addison. Since she has been back she has been messaging Addison non-stop. They live on the other side of Metro Indianapolis, of course, so getting together for just a hangout has been more difficult to make happen. Anyway, Brianna has been begging for a sleepover with Addison, so we made that happen. I talked to her mom Qley on the phone, and this past weekend she came over. On Saturday afternoon they arrived at our house. I did not expect Qley to look like a model, but that woman is hot. I was glad Walt was at the office. Jigche. We exchanged some pleasantries and Addison came in. Brianna and her immediately took off to Brianna's room. She was really a delightful girl and they had a fun sleepover. Qley did tell me before she left that her dad would pick her up the next day. That is when the shocking part happened. Her dad, of all people, is my ex-fiancé Kevin. When I answered the door and saw him standing there we both just looked at each other like deer in headlights. I couldn't believe it. Walt came over and saw who it was, and with no chill in his system at all audibly gasped. I have never ever been in a more awkward moment in my life. Kevin had no idea what to say and just started with, "Hey guys, nice place you got here." I just stood there and said, "Thanks," like a brain-dead idiot. Luckily, the girls interrupted and said their goodbyes. Kevin gave us the thanks for having her, and they left. It always amazes me how the world has a way of bringing your past back when you least suspect it. Part 10. A long time ago I turned to this to talk about how my world ended, and I somehow came back from that. I don't know if I can come back from this shit. I lost my sons. My oldest son Paul, he went to college, he graduated, he got a job near the college. My younger son Brian, he went to the same college, he was just a freshman. I picked them up from the airport 4 days before Christmas. We got on a 70 out of the airport and were heading home. It was cold and a little icy. I thought Brian should practice driving in the conditions. Him being shorter than I am, his brother sat behind him. We came upon the accident. It looked bad. We managed to stop. I thought everything was fine. From the report, I guess the driver of the semi-truck had gotten a text and decided to check it. I guess it was a long text because I don't know how you don't see the taillights. He basically ran over the driver's side of the car. They were crushed and killed instantly. I had a shattered leg, lots of bruising, lots of cuts. In the few months following, Emily has grown cold to me. She is hurting. She cries so much. Brianna is doing her best to take it in stride. She misses her big brothers. I can't do much. My leg is so badly damaged it will be months before I can walk. Emily doesn't care. She blames me. Thinks I was stupid to have him drive then. I know it was stupid, but you never fucking know. She thinks it should have been me. I should have been driving. Then they would have sat on the other side, the side that survived. The only thing getting me through the day right now are the meds they prescribed me. I really shouldn't take them as a recovering alcoholic, but I need them right now while I recover. I wish I had died in that wreck. Part 11. 2 years ago. I am 56, Lost my wife and stepson in a terrible accident. The accident they were in caused a pileup that stopped traffic around it. This caused my ex-fiancée Emily's F-51 family, her then husband and 2 sons, to come to stop on the interstate. A truck did not notice in time and ran over their car, killing her 2 sons and crippling her then husband Walt. Our daughters had been best friends for a few years at that point. I often avoided much interaction with them. Even though I had moved on, the reminder wasn't pleasant. In the 2 years since then, Emily and I have continued on as single parents of daughters. Our girls got closer after the accident, each having lost their older brothers. Because of all of this, I have been interacting with Emily more and more, especially since her divorce from ex-husband Walt a year ago. Roughly a month ago, Emily and I began texting privately. We had only been talking at events that involved both of the girls, which wasn't very many as they went to different high schools. We have been sort of trauma bonding. Each of us has our bad days, and it has been kind of nice to have someone who gets it to talk to. I'm having all of these feelings. I miss waking up next to someone. I do feel like Emily and I have a connection. I just don't know if I should share this with her, given our past and how relatively close the end of her marriage is. However, I have been thinking a lot about trying to rekindle our romantic relationship. I just don't know if that's fair to her, to put that out there at this time. She has lost both of her sons, was in a relationship with a man who had multiple addictions and severe PTSD for 20 years, and honestly the reality that she left me for him still weighs into everything. I'm also thinking about our girls. I would hate to create a rift between them. They are so close and really lean on each other. I just don't know what to do. I know what I want to do, but don't know if it is the right thing to do. Part 12. I'm typing this as a sort of memoir. Life has been very hard, but still I feel relatively blessed now. I just celebrated my 60th birthday a few weeks ago. My husband Kevin, M65, and I went on a cruise together. He isn't legally my husband, we didn't get remarried, but I consider him the same and he considers me his wife. We have officially been back together for about 8 years now. 3 years ago we welcomed our first grandchild when his daughter Addison gave birth to a healthy baby girl. Our daughters, Brianna and Addison, really embraced being sisters, not surprising they were already best friends. In the last years we have watched them both get married. Welcomed our above-mentioned first grandchild and now are making some major preparations as they are both pregnant and due just 5 weeks apart. It hasn't been all good times. Walt passed away 4 years ago at 55 years old. It was hard on Brianna. Decades ago he ended up captive to drug smugglers for several years. He managed to be rescued but was never the same again. He had PTSD that he left untreated for over a decade. He coped through alcohol. When he got sober, he coped through work. When we lost our sons and he became disabled, the pills became his new crutch. Then he went back to drinking. Brianna and I managed to intervene. We got him cleaned up one more time. Then 2 years after he died from heart failure, I still feel guilty for blaming him for the death of our sons. It wasn't his fault, he made a bad decision, but it wasn't his fault. Kevin and I danced around getting back together for a whole year after he first brought it up. For the most part he was pushing for it, he didn't overdo it. That has never been Kevin, he is literally the most boundary-respecting person I have ever met. That didn't stop him from trying to win me over though. We had a lot of long talks, and we went on some dates. We kissed here and there. I think I just wasn't ready for a lot of that year. He did just that, and we've been together ever since. I often reflect back and wonder if this is what the 2 decades in between would have been like if I had chosen him the first time. I don't think either of us has regrets, we had and have wonderful children, but that doesn't stop the thought. I know there's no way of knowing, so I'll just have to enjoy what this universe has given me for as long as I can. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you enjoyed our videos, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest ones. Have a great day.